The Invest in Her podcast is brought to you in part by Wells Fargo Bank. Hi, I'm Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. I'm also the podcast host of Invest in Her and an award-winning producer, author, and TEDx speaker. Our show, Invest in Her, features phenomenal female founders and funders. As you know, women receive less than 2% of venture capital funding. Our series is about accelerating the funding of women by connecting them to funding resources. Let's meet today's guest. Welcome to this week's episode of Invest in Her. I'm your host, Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation, and more recently, the producer of Show Her the Money movie. So today, we're going to be talking about another special movie. It is called Scars Unseen. And today we have both the director, who is also the founder of She TV Media, Meredith Yinger, and also one of the stars of the movie, who is a trauma resilience coach, and her name is Adrienne Rouan. I love these ladies. Welcome to the show, Adrienne and Meredith. Hi, girls. How are you? That was a mouthful. I got it out.
We gave you a lot to say. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Wonderful
So I'm so excited that Scars Unseen is now at the festivals, and people can come to your website and see, where it's going to be. The website is
ScarsUnseen.com.
Of how original. So let's first tell everybody in the audience how we all met, because first of all, we are all members of the BRA Network, which Carrie Murray is the leader of that.
Carrie.
We love Carrie. And BRA stands for Business Relationship Alliance, right?
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's a great group. Obviously, we meet amazing people within that group. And about a year ago, we were at their annual luncheon, and I was so grateful that my She Angels Foundation could give a grant to help finish this movie.
Yes, we are so fortunate.
Yeah.
I was applying to grants. I reached out to She Angels. They didn't tell me anything, and at the event, they surprised us with the grant. And it was the most awesome experience, and truly that helped us get an editor on board to really finish this film and take it across the finish line, and we honestly couldn't have done it without She Angels.
I'm so glad. Oh, that makes me so happy. Yes. She Angels Foundation, gives grants to female-founded nonprofits that are helping women and girls. And boy, your film really helps women and girls. And so we're going to get into that. But first I have to say how I know Adrienne. So we were on a TEDx stage during COVID together.
We sure were.
Yeah. It's like, hey, what do you do during COVID? Oh, you do that TED Talk that you never get around to, and now you have plenty of time to do, right? That was my story anyway. And got the pleasure of meeting each other, and then we came back into our circles at the BRA event, and come to find out that she was one of the stars of this film. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I know her. This is amazing. Two amazing powerhouse women that you've come together to tell this story. And I want to talk about what the film's about, and that content also leads to your TED Talk, right, Adrienne?
Yes, it does.
And the work that you do. So enough about setting up that scenario. Let's talk about the movie.
I love it.
Who wants to share about that? Oh, and I did want to mention, because I just mentioned Show Her the Money, that you also, Meredith, shot a segment for us in that.
Yes.
The Elizabeth Banks segment that everybody loves in the film. So I just wanted to give you
thank you. I
shout out.
am so proud to even have been a part of such an amazing documentary that you've put together. And it was so cool to be able to film and interview Marion as well. And that was a dream.
Marion Leitner from Archer Rouge.
She's the best. So I really loved that.
Yeah, so when you do see Show Her the Money, you will know that Meredith is the one that shot that really cool segment with with Marion and also Elizabeth Banks,
Yes.
which I was so bummed to miss that shoot.
I know. She's so funny too. It was that I love.
She is.
I love how creative they are with the with their commercials.
Now imagine the three of us digress.
Yes, we'll get back to it.
So let's get back to your very important movie, because it's a serious subject and it's something that needed to be addressed. And Adrienne, God bless you for telling your story and putting yourself out there so that it heals other people. So let's talk about this. How did you two come together? How did this project get started? And tell us a little bit about the movie, Scars Unseen.
Totally. I'll give a little overview, and then Adrienne, if she wants to share her story of finding us, I love that story. Scars Unseen is a Triumph of the Human Spirit documentary following 3 women who have overcome domestic violence and are paying it forward. Wow. And a lot of people, they hear domestic violence and they cringe because they think about the horrific abuse acts that are so often televised and dramatized in our media, and that's not what this film is. This film is about resilience and the strength of these women and how they found healing and what trauma-informed care can look like and how we as a society can really all benefit from that.
And whose idea was it to make it a positive story? Was that a collaboration?
Yeah, I always wanted it to be a positive because we have so many negative angles out there, and I was so curious, like what did you do? How did you get out? How did you find healing? What does that look like? And
right.
I feel
so it gives people hope.
It gives people hope.
Right. So it is a movie that you're going to want to see, because it's not going to be like people might think, oh, domestic violence, this is going to be depressing. No, it's uplifting. It gives people hope.
Yeah.
It gives people information. I love that.
Yeah, we're all about the resources, and really, I hope people watch it and come away with feeling empowered and being able to change their narrative.
And you have won awards all over the place, been, notified, recognized by LA Times 22, 23 as one of the most inspirational women. You've won awards at Cannes Festival. I mean, I know it's going to be a great movie, so I'm super excited to be talking about it today. Adrienne, you and I know each other since we did the TED Talk, as I just mentioned. And tell everybody what your TED Talk was about.
My TED Talk is called How Trauma-Informed Care Saved My Life, and it is truly about spinning the narrative on the abuse also. So this is how I ended up in the film, because I do not like being viewed only as my story. The story can be very lurid in its details, and sometimes people want to only hear that, and it really frustrated me. And when I found trauma-informed care, it just opened up a whole universe of possibility for me, and understanding that not only did I not have to be who the story said I was, but I could create it myself, design a new story, and then go live it, and that there were people who actually believed that I could do that.
I love that. And so you felt defined by your past and your trauma for many years. I know you worked in the financial industry.
Yes.
And then kind of had a meltdown saying, oh my God, I can't go on living like this.
Yes.
And then went and spent years getting your certifications to help other women who have been through this same thing learn how to redefine their story. And, there's a woman in our film that I bet would just really relate to you. That is Dawn LaFrida in Show Her the Money, right? I mean,
yes.
She too, like you, has totally redefined who she is, and not allowing her background to influence her present. And as such is a great role model, and has been told so by many of our audience. I imagine when people see the movie and they get to meet you, that they have that same glimmer of hope that you can give them, that they can not let their past rule their present. Now, is that right?
That is spot on. I feel that, especially coming from so many of us, I come from a trailer park, and that is such a stigma where I'm from. It's a stigma in many places, and to be told where I belonged or who I was worthy of being around or hanging out with didn't sit with me. And I started out in banking when I was 18 or 19 years old, and I always saw people creating things, designing things, creating businesses, and sometimes they would share their story, and they didn't necessarily come from a background of stardom or of wealth and power, and they created it. And I always wanted that. I wanted to show people that you don't have to also then live in the shame of it. It doesn't have to live inside of you forever. So it's both and. It's the fact that many of us know you can manifest your future. You can be whomever you wish to be. And also, though, what about the part inside of me that doesn't feel that I'm that yet, or that still feels that when something's brought up at the family party, or even do I even want to go to the family party? Is it even a healthy space for me? Making these choices that impact us somatically and just the actual emotional experience of living and of pulling yourself out of nothing or of violence or whatever it is not just in your mind. It lives inside of your body. So that's why I've spent this time gaining the certifications and becoming an expert trained, person to be able to teach people how to feel it, how to allow it to pass, and then how to fill that then with strength and courage and a different way of walking, talking, speaking.
You know what you just said reminds me of this plaque I have on my desk. And it says, people who are famous authors, actors, scientists, astronauts, presidents, at one time were none of those things. And that is so true that it doesn't matter what scenario you come from, you could be anything that you want to be. Anything that you want to create. Your background doesn't determine your future. And that is a wonderful message that you're giving to people in this movie and in your life's work. So I love that. There's got to be so many people out there that are letting their past rule their present. And to learn that there is a way to work with you or people like you to change that. And I love that the movie is basically, this is what it's about, right? Giving people those keys to a new and different future despite their past.
Yes, totally. Yeah. It's amazing what Adrienne has done, and we really just kind of wanted to amplify, like, here is an option. Maybe it looks different for you. Maybe it's yoga. Maybe it's this, trauma-informed care approach. It can look different, but here's what worked for them, and maybe it could work for you.
I love that. I love that. And how did you two meet?
You want to tell it?
Oh, well, I was...
this must be good.
I love this story.
I was overindulging in an alcoholic beverage in a depressive state, just watching random things on a streaming channel, and found an indie film that had nothing to do with this. And I was thinking to myself, I would like to watch this again, because it was a fantasy, right? And when you're a trauma survivor, you like to fantasize all the time and get out of your life, because why would you want to be here all the time? So I was actually in a freeze response. And I went to the Seed and Spark website, because that was where the other film was on, and I was scrolling down to the S's, and out of the peripheral vision of my eye, I caught Scars Unseen. And by the way, there's something in your brain called a reticular activating system that if you can program yourself appropriately, it helps you to manifest things. So just an FYI, that's 100%. Some of the work I did.
Yeah.
So, take notes, everyone.
My RTC caught the Scars Unseen of my peripheral vision. I scrolled back, I clicked on it, and I like to get in depth to it because it was just such a weird synchronistic experience.
Right. That's the way, when things are meant to be, that's how they happen.
Oh,
so you were already making the film.
We were crowdfunding for the film.
Wow.
And we had a couple people lined up for interviews, but Adrienne found us through Seed and Spark, and then reached out and left this voicemail.
Was that meant to be?
Yes.
It's not a glamorous story, but it's the truth.
Yeah. I love it, though,
it's
because
an interesting synchronicity story.
Totally.
I love it.
And that's like the cool thing about this project is I feel like everyone, like, it's a snowball effect, right? Like Adrienne found us, and then like all of these people that resonate with this story have gotten behind us or come on board, whether that be like composers and editors. Like, so many people have believed in this project and like wanted to uplift it because maybe it was similar to their story or something they experienced.
Well, let's say that this story touches so many different people. I mean, probably a majority of women. I mean, so you're talking about a huge audience here. Yeah. But I didn't know that you already made. I thought maybe you had the idea and you came to her with it. So I didn't even know this story.
I think it's
I'm so glad
important,
you're
though.
sharing this story with me.
Because so many of us are in that space and we know there's more and we want more. And I was even feeling guilty that I had I was so depressed. I was so frustrated. I was fighting for so long. And I think it's so important for people to know there are voices out there. And if you just stay open and
that's the beauty of a movie.
You can take breaks. You can watch a fantasy thing on TV and then you never know, as long as you never give up the hope. And always stay open that if you even crawl, I used to say, if I just even crawl, I will get somewhere.
Right.
So that's why I do share the details of that moment, because I can't even imagine how many of us find ourselves in that position.
Yeah.
And I think we all agree. I believe that it's film and television that helps change culture.
Yes.
It helps raise awareness and create change.
Yes.
And that's why I'm such a big believer in filmmaking. And I think that this was a very important topic you all tackled that reaches a lot of people. And I agree with you, what you said earlier, that people might say, oh, it's a film about domestic abuse, I don't want to see that. But when in reality, anybody who's touched in that, either themselves or had a friend, should be seeing the movie to generate hope and resilience.
Yes.
And so that's why they should see it.
Yes. And just like you said, films create culture, and following and beliefs. And I really believe that if we put this hopeful, empowering message and story out there, that it will have a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And I really want to encourage, other filmmakers to be conscientious about that power that they hold and see how they're portraying, domestic violence situations or any situation, and really just take that into account of who you're putting in front of the camera, what you're saying, and how you're saying, because what you say matters, and people will watch it and will embody that a lot of times, or mimic it, right? We like to mimic or follow what we see on TV or in the movies, and if we can put something positive and hopeful out there, hopefully that's what people take away.
And Meredith, you're a great filmmaker.
Thank you.
And I know you put your heart and soul into these films. So, when somebody goes and sees this, I mean, this is y'all's baby, right? It's so important, but you do spend a lot of time and energy fundraising, making the movie, editing the movie. It's got to be something you really believe in. This is like a message to filmmakers who are listening. And it's not easy raising money, but I try to talk about what I did with my film. You don't have to always raise it in one way. It could be some people invest in the film. It could be that you work with someone like From the Heart Productions that gives you a fiscal sponsor that gives donors a tax deduction. So some people want to donate, right?
Yeah.
And then also sometimes we can get sponsors. I know I've done that for the tour.
Yes.
I'm sure you're probably looking at that for your tour, because they're going on tour. And if you visit the website, you can see where you're going to be able to see the movie.
Yep.
I know you're coming up in a lot of film festivals, so very exciting, in cities all around the country.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. We're modeling everything after you. You've kind of set the tone.
I'm so glad.
We really want to spread this message, and we are looking for sponsors and people to join us on this community screening tour, so we can bring it to communities and to people like first responders and people that are first on scene when they get a domestic violence call, or universities, to start having those conversations. Like, what does that look like? Why haven't we talked about this?
Yes.
And not be afraid to talk about it as well.
Yes. We, too, are looking at universities for distribution, and I think that is a wonderful outlet for you all, too.
Yeah.
But, you can't reach enough people, because this is something that affects anybody at different ages, different ethnicities, different sexual preferences. It just affects so many people.
Socioeconomic status. That's
All
something
of
coming
that.
from finance that it's even less talked about oftentimes in the professional world.
And, I'm glad you mentioned that about the socioeconomic part, because even when I'm with our movie about venture capital, it's been so fascinating for me on that road. I've met several founders of women-founded venture capital funds who've raised millions of dollars to invest in other women, and they all come from very low. I mean, one of them was sleeping in her car, the other grew up in the projects. So to your point, that doesn't stop you from being the greatness that you've been put in the world for, right?
Correct.
And so, yeah, well, I love that your film is making a difference, making waves, that you guys got together and the universe put you together to help create it. And before we close also, too, I didn't want to forget to mention that you edited the opening of our podcast that runs every week. Yeah. Yes. I love it.
Yes,
yeah.
and we filmed your TED Talks.
Yes. Oh my God, that's right. You filmed our TED Talks. Meredith, you've been in the middle of everything.
I know. We've just been here the whole time. We're just sneaking around in the back.
I'm sure much more to come. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're so happy to know you and to find this community, and especially like with Braun just moving forward into this world, and to have Adrienne with us too. It's just
nice
amazing
to have community.
Yes.
You know, and Braun Network has brought a lot of people together, and this is just one of the things that we've come together about.
Yes.
And so thanks, Carrie Murray.
Thanks, Carrie.
So good things ahead with this project. I know you're working on some other ones too, so people will be following you. Where can they follow you, ladies? Are you both on LinkedIn?
Yeah. We are.
Yes. I'm on LinkedIn. The scarsunseen.com. We'll post the updates. We've got She TV Media Instagram, Scars Unseen Instagram, and then Adrienne
Rouan everywhere you look.
And that's ROUAN.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, because some people are listening and not watching, so we'll always like them to know that. But I love that name, She TV Media. That was a good call.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're taking control of the narrative back. We're uplifting the female voice for now.
I love it. Well, Meredith, Adrienne, thank you so much for being on. It's so great to see you both in person here in LA. And everybody, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed our conversation about, how filmmaking really is entrepreneurship. We're out there just like entrepreneurs, raising money to make films, to make a difference. And so that's why being supportive of crowdfunding, like she mentioned for their film on Seed and Spark and other films like that, is so important, because art shapes our culture. And so it should be included in that realm of entrepreneurship. So thanks for tuning in. For you entrepreneurs and filmmakers out there, we hope you found the stories inspiring today. And we want to thank Adrienne and Meredith for both being on today. And of course, you can find me, Catherine Gray, on LinkedIn as well as them. And, of course, follow showherthemoneymovie.com as well as
scarsunseen.com.
There you go. So follow us both. We're both on the circuit and going to different cities with the tour around the country, around the world, and we look forward to seeing you there in person. Follow She Angel Investors also on social media, and Show Her the Money. Okay, we will see you on social. We will see you in person. Make it a great day, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember to invest in her.